Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member Mikulski and Secretary Pritzker for being here. I would certainly echo Senator Mikulski's praise of your efforts at the Commerce Department. I certainly have very much appreciated your responsiveness and your work to improve the economy in this country. New Hampshire's new unemployment rate is 2.9%, so we're very happy about what's happening in the state, but obviously there's a lot more work to do. And one area that I am concerned about, and I've been running back and forth to a hearing in the Small Business Committee on what's happening with the fisheries industry in New Hampshire and northern New England. And I assume you heard that, I know, from Chairman Shelby at the beginning about the at-sea monitoring program, and I assume you probably heard it from Senator Collins as well, that we have a real challenge in New Hampshire because of what has happened to our fishing fleet. The quota in cod has been decimated in the last several years. They're able to fish just 5% of what they were able to fish several years ago. And I appreciate the Administrator Sullivan's being responsive to the local fishermen when she was in New Hampshire earlier or late last year. But one of the things that I have heard everywhere is the impact of the fee for at-sea monitoring that everyone is facing. $700 a trip, and for small boats, which is what we have in New Hampshire, they have to pay the same amount regardless of the catch, regardless of where they go, as the bigger boats. And I know that we've appropriated $300 million for the electronic monitoring program, but what I'm being told by my fishermen is that they have not been approved to officially begin that program. And so I asked them, I said, what would you like for me to say to Secretary Pritzker, who I'm going to be able to talk to later this morning? And their comment was, tell her that time is critical, that the fleet has been in limbo for the last year and that we don't have much more time left. So can you talk about what you envision doing through Commerce and through NOAA to help the fishermen as they're looking just specifically at that monitoring program and how we're going to move to the electronic monitoring program, which hopefully will make it easier for people to afford and will keep people in business?
Well, Senator, we have 5 pilot electronic monitoring programs at this time, and we're proceeding with an additional 7 fisheries that will do electronic monitoring. We've put together a regional plan. What I will do is have my staff work with yours to make you aware of what we're doing specifically in the Northeast and as it relates to electronic monitoring. The challenge that we're facing on the at-sea monitoring is we lost this court case, which I was just talking about a little bit earlier, but there may be some other alternatives that were being brought to my attention. But the court case, as we understand it, is that we have to spend our money on bycatch monitoring first, as opposed to at-sea monitoring, which is causing our inability or lack of flexibility to fund the northeastern groundfish monitoring. But there were some issues that were raised earlier that maybe there's some flexibility there.
They raised 2 other issues that I would call to your attention because I think they're important as we think about what can be done to support an industry so that we don't lose it entirely. One is the idea of collaborative research. Under the Magnuson-Stevens Act, there was some support for collaborative research between the agency and the fishermen and some funding to help with that. And their interest is in being able to not only have some of that research continue, but also allowing the industry to help prioritize what the research would focus on. I think one of the challenges that I hear from New Hampshire's fishing industry and all of New England really is that they feel like the management decisions have been made very much without taking into consideration the input they have provided, despite the hearings that have been held, despite the various bodies that are supposed to bring back those views, that there is still this feeling out on the line where people are actually have the fishing boats and are doing the work, that they're not being heard. So that's one area that I think might not only provide some more helpful information, but might also make people feel like they're being heard. The other issue is the transparency in the quota leasing. And I understand that, again, that there are privacy rules and that we need to respect those. But as one person explained it to me, he said it would be like trying to sell your house without knowing what any of the prices are for homes in your neighborhood. And so whatever we can do to provide more transparency in the quota leasing, I think would also be helpful as we're looking at trying to save this industry. So I don't know if you want to respond to either of those.
Let me just respond briefly, and then we would like to get together with your staff and go in more detail. But in terms of collaborative research, you know, I'm a fundamental believer research needs to be collaborative and needs to reflect what industry feels is going to be of a high payoff. We talked earlier about how do we get more lab to market, and it applies to fish as much as it does to manufacturing and other areas. The second is in transparency. I'm a believer in transparency, particularly when it comes to being able to offer services, et cetera, in a leasing program. So we should work on that together as well, and would love the help or insights from your staff as to what we could be doing differently.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.